Before we go any further, one thing needs to be cleared up, because you've probably seen videos claiming the VA just rolled out some brand new rule specifically for people born in the 1940s, the 1950s, or the 1960s. That claim isn't true. There's no VA rule, no Social Security rule, and no Medicare rule that groups veterans by the decade they were born in. That exact "born in this decade" format gets recycled constantly. It's a template, not a fact. And I'm not going to insult you by pretending otherwise. What actually matters is this, and it's more useful than a fake rule would be. Your birth decade lines up closely with when you served, and when you served determines which VA benefits are most likely sitting there unclaimed right now. The numbers explain why. A veteran with a 100% disability rating receives $3,938.58 a month from the VA in 2026 month. From the VA in 2026. That's the number most veterans know. But there's a second number sitting directly above it on the same federal pay schedule, $4,009.100.83 a month. That applies to that same veteran if they need help with daily personal functions because of their service-connected disability. Bathing, dressing, getting out of bed in the morning. That's a difference of $962.25 a month. It doesn't trigger itself. It requires a specific form and a specific category of benefit that the VA will never bring up unless you ask for it by name. That's benefit number one, and there are four more like it. Real, current, dollar-specific VA benefits, the kind that quietly go unclaimed for years, organized by what actually matters depending on when you served. No hype, no fake birth decade urgency, just the actual mechanics and the actual 2026 dollar amounts, straight from VA's own rate tables. So grab a notepad and let's get into it. Let me begin by telling you how special monthly compensation actually works. SMC is extra tax-free compensation stacked on top of your regular disability rating. One detail catches many veterans off guard. It isn't triggered by your percentage rating at all. It's triggered by specific severe functional losses, loss of use of a hand or a foot, and loss of use counts even without amputation, blindness, needing daily help bathing, dressing, or eating, or being substantially confined to your home. There are several tiers, and it's worth knowing the latter because most people only ever hear about one level. SMCK is the smallest, about $139.87 a month, and it stacks on top of whatever your regular rating already pays, for specific losses like one hand, one foot, or hearing in one ear. SMC-S, the housebound rate, runs around $4,408 a month, and applies when you're substantially confined to your home due to a service-connected disability. SMCL, the aid and attendance level, the one that opened this video, is $4,900.83 a month for a single veteran with no dependents, and it applies when you need regular help with daily personal activities. And at the top, SMCR and SMCT, which cover veterans needing daily skilled or aid-level care, can reach over $11,000 a month. A veteran can be rated 70 or 80% for the qualifying condition and still receive an SMC payment well above the standard 100% rate. The reason this gets missed so often is that SMC requires you to actively raise it. The VA is supposed to recognize it from your medical evidence, but in practice, adjudicators frequently don't catch things like a service-connected condition that quietly led to loss of use of a limb, or a veteran who's needed help with daily activities for years, but chalked it up to just getting older instead of realizing it might be compensable. If any of those situations sound familiar, one option is to discuss special monthly compensation with an accredited VA representative. When appropriate, claims involving aid and attendance commonly involve VA Form 21-2680, together with the applicable compensation claim forms. Here is an example of how it looks like. Picture a veteran rated 80% for a service-connected nerve condition in one leg that, over the years, has genuinely progressed to loss of use of the foot. He's been collecting the standard 80% rate for over a decade, roughly $2,100 a month, and it never once occurred to him to ask about anything beyond that rating, because as far as he knew, 80% was 80%. Once loss of use of a foot is documented and SMC is properly raised, that same condition can qualify him for a far higher combined monthly payment, potentially close to double what he's been receiving, for the exact same diagnosis he's had the whole time. Nothing about his condition needs to change for this to apply. Only whether it's ever actually been reviewed under the SMC criteria, instead of just the standard percentage table, is what that matters. The second benefit matters most if you're the spouse of a veteran, or if you're a veteran thinking ahead on your spouse's behalf. It's Dependency and Indemnity Compensation, or simply DIC. This is a monthly tax-free benefit paid to a surviving spouse after a veteran's death, and the 2026 base rate is $1,699.36 a month. There's a meaningful add-on, too, an extra $360.85 a month if the veteran was rated 100% disabled for at least 8 continuous years before death, while married that entire time, called the 8-year provision. One part of this process is often overlooked. DIC eligibility often depends on paperwork that has to be pulled together after a death, under real emotional stress. Records like the veteran's exact disability rating history, DD-214, and marriage certificate. The VA does not automatically receive notification of a veteran's death in a way that triggers a survivor payment. A surviving spouse has to file VA Form 21P-534EZ within 1 year of the veteran's death to receive full retroactive back pay to the date of death. File after that window, and benefits start from the filing date instead, potentially forfeiting months of payments. So if you're the veteran, the single most protective thing you can do for your spouse right now is get that paperwork organized into one folder today and confirm exactly how long your current rating has been in place. There's also a remarriage rule worth knowing because a lot of widows and widowers assume remarriage automatically ends DIC, and that's simply not always true anymore. A surviving spouse can remarry and keep DIC if the remarriage happens at age 55 or older, on or after January 2021, or at age 57 or older for remarriages before that. Before moving on, tell me in the comments honestly, have you and your spouse actually sat down and organized this paperwork, or is it still something to get to eventually? I want to know where people actually stand on this because eventually is exactly how this benefit gets missed. Now, the third benefit is VA pension with aid and attendance, and I want to be really clear about something. This is a completely different program from VA disability compensation, and a lot of veterans never even look into it because they assume disability comp is the only VA money available. Pension is needs-based. It's for wartime veterans, at least 90 days of active duty with 1 day during a recognized wartime period, who are 65 or older, or permanently and totally disabled, and who fall under specific income and asset limits. In 2026, that net worth limit is $163,699. Many veterans stop looking at this point because they do rough mental math, add up their savings, and assume they're over the limit, without realizing your primary home and one vehicle don't count toward that limit at all. And unreimbursed medical expenses, including the cost of assisted living or in-home care, get deducted from your countable income before VA compares it to the limit, specifically anything above 5% of the pension rate itself. That deduction alone brings a lot of veterans who look too high income on paper into the qualifying range. The basic pension rate for a single veteran, without aid and attendance, is around $1,453 a month. If you need aid and attendance, meaning help with daily activities, or you're essentially homebound, that jumps to $29,093 a year, or roughly $2,424 a month. With a dependent spouse, the married rate reaches $34,488 a year. One important caution is that before you move any money around to try to qualify, VA looks back 3 years at any asset transferred for less than it was worth. Gifting money to family right before applying can actually trigger a penalty period. So if you're close to the income and asset line, that's a conversation to have with an accredited VA claims professional before you touch anything. Now, the application goes in via VA Form 21P-527EZ, with VA Form 21-2680 attached for the aid and attendance component, and the income and asset statement on VA Form 21P-0969. The fourth benefit is specifically for anyone who served in a location involving toxic exposure, burn pits, Agent Orange, contaminated water, radiation sites, and it's the PACT Act. This law dramatically expanded the list of conditions VA now presumes are connected to your service. If your condition is on that presumptive list, and your service matches the qualifying location and era, you don't have to individually prove your illness was caused by your service the way you used to. VA assumes the connection by law. And that list has kept growing since 2022. It now includes respiratory cancers and chronic respiratory disease, melanoma, hypertension, hypothyroidism, Parkinsonism, several additional cancers, and a blood disorder called MGUS, conditions that weren't presumptive when a lot of older claims were originally filed and denied. Blue Water Navy veterans, previously excluded from Agent Orange presumptions entirely, should specifically check whether bladder cancer and the other newly added conditions apply to their service. If your claim was denied before your condition became presumptive, you generally don't have to start over from scratch. You can file what's called a supplemental claim, VA Form 20-0995, using the new presumptive status itself as your new evidence. And for a lot of these reopened claims, you don't need a nexus letter at all anymore, because the law already presumes the connection for you. An accredited VA representative can help determine whether this process applies for you. But something you must know is that the timing matters here, so pay attention to this part. File the supplemental claim within 1 year of the most recent VA decision on that condition. And if you win, your effective date and your back pay goes all the way back to your original filing date, not to the date you filed the new supplemental claim. Wait past that 1-year window, and the claim still reopens, but back pay only runs from the new filing date forward. The financial difference between those two outcomes can be substantial, which is exactly why the timing of this decision matters as much as the decision itself. This is especially relevant to anyone who served during the later Vietnam years, the Gulf War, or early post-9/11 deployments in Iraq or Afghanistan. So if that's your service history and you were denied even 10 or 15 years ago, it is genuinely worth another look under today's rules. And the fifth benefit is really more of a strategy than a single benefit, but it's the one that determines how much of everything above actually reaches you. It's understanding rating increases and something called intent to file. Here's a mistake I want you to let go of completely if you're carrying it. A lot of veterans assume once a rating is set, it's locked in forever unless VA calls them back in. That's not how it works. VA does not proactively monitor your health and raise your rating on its own. If a service-connected condition has worsened, or a new condition developed because of one you're already rated for, you have to be the one who files for the increase. There's actually good news buried in the rules here too. Under Federal Regulation 38 CFR 3.951, once you've held a rating for 20 years or more, it becomes protected from reduction below the lowest level it's held during that entire period, except in cases of fraud. And under 38 CFR 3.327A, once you're over age 55, VA generally exempts you from routine scheduled reexaminations on established ratings. So filing for an honest increase as you age is not the risky move a lot of veterans fear it is. And getting a rating locked in before that 20-year and age 55 protection kicks in is worth doing sooner rather than later. Now, the part that actually decides your back pay is before you file anything. Submit an intent to file first, VA Form 21-0966. It's not a full claim, it's a placeholder that locks in your effective date for up to a full year while you gather medical evidence. File that intent today, spend 11 months pulling together records, and then submit and win your actual claim. And your back pay runs all the way back to today, not to the day your paperwork finally got finished. 2 more things worth verifying while you're at it, even though they're not full benefits on their own. If you're on Medicare and VA healthcare both, don't drop Medicare Part B just because you assume VA coverage replaces it. It doesn't, and dropping it creates a permanent late enrollment penalty if you ever need it again. That penalty is its own topic, and I will be doing a full video specifically on the Part B late enrollment penalty. So consider subscribing if you want to stay updated. And if you've ever hesitated to file for VA compensation or to claim Social Security because you were told one would cut into the other, that's a myth. VA disability compensation does not reduce your Social Security retirement check, and Social Security does not reduce your VA compensation. They're entirely separate systems. Before we wind up, here's one assignment I'd encourage you to complete this week. If you or your spouse have any condition involving loss of use of a limb, blindness, or a need for daily help, go look specifically into special monthly compensation. Don't assume your percentage rating already covers it. If you're a veteran, spend 20 minutes today gathering your DD-214, your current rating decision, and your marriage certificate into one folder. If you're a spouse, know that the form you'll eventually need is 21P-534EZ, and that filing within a year of the veteran's death is what preserves your retroactive back pay. If your income looks too high for VA pension on a rough guess, actually run the real numbers with your home and vehicle excluded and your medical expenses deducted before ruling it out. If you served somewhere with toxic exposure and were denied years ago, look at today's presumptive list, because it's very possibly a different answer now. And before you file anything at all, file the intent to file first. It costs you nothing, and it protects every month of back pay you're owed. Finally, if you want a second set of eyes on any of this, you don't have to figure it out alone. VA.gov and 1-800-827-1000 are the starting points, and an accredited veterans service organization, the VFW, the American Legion, DAV, can review your entire claim file for free and flag anything that may have been missed. That review costs nothing. What it sometimes finds has been sitting unclaimed for years. None of this requires guessing at a fake birth decade rule. It just requires actually reviewing what's already legitimately yours. If you know a veteran, or a veteran's spouse, who's never had their claim file reviewed under today's rules, share this video with them. A few minutes spent reviewing these benefits could uncover compensation that's been overlooked for years. And if you find this video helpful, consider subscribing. It really motivates us to do more of these in-depth videos. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.